let her take her criminal scheme into the Oval Office.
Election 2016.
The most important elections of our lifetimes.
Happens right here.
The criminal investigation of Hillary Clinton, the former Secretary of State, is back on.
If Hillary doesn't win this election, that will be on us.
We don't want to give this away.
Complete coverage.
Any landing you walk away from is a successful landing.
On FM News Talk 97.1 and 97.1talk.com.
Why does a group of people that always loses elections or tends to do lately, why do they call themselves the American people? Because do they still count blacks as three-fifths of a vote?
She believes government is the problem and the free market is going to save everything in America.
Stacy, Washington. Stacy on the right.
It's the equivalent of shooting fish in a barrel.
This is the Stacy on the Right Show.
She was the one who announced the U.S.'s so-called Asia-Pacific pivot that has seen more U.S. military forces being placed in the Asia-Pacific as a direct military threat to China.
And we look to the Asia-Pacific region, as we have for many decades, as an area where the United States is uniquely positioned to play a major role. The United States is not ceding the Pacific to anyone.
And she has stated in no uncertain terms that Russia and Iran will be militarily targeted in a Clinton presidency, and that the nuclear option is, as always, on the table.
And we will make sure the Iranians and the world understand that the United States will act decisively if necessary, including taking military action. There will have to be consequences for any violation by Iran, and that the nuclear option should not at all be taken off the table. That has been my position consistently. And Russia has to support the international community's efforts sincerely or be held to account. That Russia and China will pay a price because they are holding up progress, blockading it, that is no longer tolerable.
Yeah, welcome back to the show, everybody. 866-455-9797. That was Hillary Clinton actually just very seriously, I can't say cavalierly, but seriously letting everyone know, signaling everyone in the world that under a Clinton presidency, not only would the nuclear triad be on the table, but she would be looking for opportunities to use military force on people who didn't toe the line in the way that she sees fit. Now do you understand why Russia is calling all of the people who live abroad who are expats with their children, calling them home? They're doing exercises on survival tips and all that stuff, wartime exercises with their civilian population. They think that Hillary Clinton's going to win, and they think if she wins that they might be at war. I also saw some kind of rumor stuff. It's not able to be substantiated, but people were posting online this afternoon that the reality is that there's so much of a cover-up going on, so much that we are unaware of that is currently, just about to be cracked open with the 650,000 emails and the latest WikiLeaks dump that's imminent, like it's supposed to happen on November 1st, that they think that, Obama might start a little something with Russia just to cover it all up. Just so people would be distracted by us being at war instead of having to deal with what's coming down the pipeline. I don't know that I put a lot of stock in that, but I do think at this point I am unable to rule anything out anymore just because the nature of everything that's happening is so unprecedented. It is unprecedented for an FBI director to refuse to prosecute someone who has so clearly engaged in malfeasance as Hillary Clinton has. It is also unheard of for him to buck the entire security apparatus and to send a letter to sitting Congress members to say the investigation is actually not closed because we have new information. I mean, that's one of the top stories here on the Washington Post. Justice officials warned FBI that Comey's decision to update Congress was not consistent with department policy. I want to take a brief moment to give a shout out to Mark Campbell, who says that he just recently changed his party from Democrat to Republican last month. Welcome home, Mark. Welcome home. It's good to have you.
Yeah, really.
I mean, I'm so glad to hear that. So let's go through what I prepared for you guys tonight, and it is a ton. So the first thing is, I have people on Facebook saying that I'm late to the game. I don't know what I'm talking about, that they didn't have a warrant to review the emails related to the Clinton investigation. Well, they didn't have one because the case is supposedly closed, because they were done with the inquiry. The investigation was over. The warrant that yielded this new tranche of emails was for Anthony Weiner's sexting with a 15-year-old girl. So according to one of the officials, FBI Director James Comey had no idea what was in the content of the emails when he wrote his letter to Congress on Friday. But he announced that the existence of the new emails appeared to be pertinent upon the completed investigation, which means it's not completed. Okay, so let's move on. So we've got that going on. Simultaneously, we have Attorney General Lynch pleading the fifth on secret Iran ransom payments. Now, remember, we were told they weren't ransom payments. We were told that they were payments for money that was embargoed or it was basically held because
from the 70s or something
from
like
the
that,
70s, money that we owed plus interest to Iran because we'd levied sanctions against them.
Look away, nothing to see.
Right.
Here.
Look, don't look, because it's okay. Don't look at okay. Just don't listen to me or look. That's what that is. It's ridiculous. Just look. Attorney General Loretta Lynch is declining to comply with an investigation by leading members of Congress about the Obama administration's secret efforts to send Iran $1.7 billion in cash earlier this year, prompting accusations that Lynch has pled the Fifth Amendment to avoid incriminating herself over these payments, according to lawmakers and communications exclusively obtained by the Washington Free Beacon. They do some fantastic work. 866-455-9797 if you want to weigh in. So it's Marco Rubio and Mike Pompeo initially presented Lynch in October with a series of questions about how the cash payment to Iran was approved and delivered, because as Congress, they should have been the ones to approve and oversee the delivery of any money, because they control the purse strings. In an October 24th response, Assistant Attorney General Peter Kadzik responded on Lynch's behalf, refusing to answer the questions and informing lawmakers that they are barred from publicly disclosing any details about the cash payment, which was bound up in a ransom deal aimed at freeing several American hostages from Iran. Ransom payment, y'all. Ransom. That's why anybody who's of Iranian descent, if you go back over to Iran right now, you're an actual fool, because all they're looking for is Americans of any extraction that they can kidnap while they're in the country so they can get some more payments. So don't go over there. It's ridiculous. So here is a quote from it's Marco Rubio and the other lawmakers. It's frankly unacceptable that your department refuses to answer straightforward questions from the people's elected representatives in Congress about an important national security issue. As the United States chief law enforcement officer, it is outrageous that you would essentially plead the Fifth and refuse to respond to inquiries. The actions of your department come at a time when Iran continues to hold Americans hostage and unjustly sentence them to prison. So Pompeo says, who knew that simple questions regarding Attorney General Lynch's approval of billions of dollars in payments to Iran could be so controversial that she refused to answer them? I knew. I kind of figured if they started asking about it, she was going to be like, I can't talk to you about that.
She's pretty quiet all the time.
Exactly.
She really is.
So why are they surprised?
I don't know.
This is not new.
No.
It's not new. Okay. So last Friday, before all of the stuff started coming out and swirling around, before the marshmallows hit the graham crackers, there was a whole lot of discussion about how the DOJ shouldn't become involved in political campaigns, and how they have a record of not getting involved in political campaigns. And so not only can they cannot comment and not only cannot investigate, they just have to stay out of it because they don't want to be involved in the political campaigns. Well, LidBlog, Jeffrey Dunitz, did some research. God bless him. The Democrats are going crazy over FBI Director Comey's decision to reopen the investigation of Hillary Clinton. Many of them claim it goes against FBI and DOJ tradition not to get involved in political campaigns, quote fingers. But beginning with George H.W. Bush's reelection, there have been at least 5 federal DOJ investigations that have interfered with and possibly changed the outcome of political campaigns. The examples below all broke that not getting involved tradition. So the first 2 investigations were announced just before Election Day in 92 and may have helped George H.W. Bush lose his bid for re-election. And the Attorney General at the time was William P. Barr, who was appointed to Bush 41. He was appointed by Bush 41. 1992, the Caspar Weinberger / Bush 41. Long before the election, Caspar Weinberger was one of 14 Reagan administration officials charged in the Iran-Contra affair. Okay? So this idea that they're now putting forward, the Democrats, that you can't expect Loretta Lynch to prosecute anybody. You can't expect her to do anything against anybody because we don't want to impact negatively a political campaign. It's malarkey. 1992, the Catalina Vasquez Villalpando Bush 41, the treasurer of the United States under Bush 41, Villalpando became the central figure in a criminal probe launched by the Department of Justice. The probe was announced October 29th, a week before Bush's reelection bid. Oh, there's no
so
clean
much
hands.
history there.
There's no clean hands. None. None. Here we go. 1992, Nicholas Mavrules, D., Massachusetts, in late August 1992, 9 weeks before facing the voters in his bid to be reelected to the Massachusetts 6th congressional seat, Mavrules was indicted by a federal grand jury for extortion and other charges. He first pled not guilty, but 6 months after he lost his reelection bid, he changed his plea to guilty. Okay? 2006, Jeanine Pirro. Pirro was running for an open attorney general of New York seat against Andrew Cuomo. She was running as a Republican. 5 weeks before the election, it was announced that she was under federal investigation for plotting to secretly record her husband over suspicions that he was having an affair. At the time, Pirro said that any probe into her marriage was highly improper. The federal probe was eventually closed without Ms. Pirro being charged, but after the federal probe hurt her candidacy and possibly cost her the election. Democrats love to get political. They love to use the Department of Justice and investigations to shut down their opponents in the political arena. Do they not?
Oh, they absolutely do. And the other thing is, what are we supposed to do as citizens? Just ignore it and then let her become president and ignore it because, well, she's running for president, so we should just ignore it.
One more example. Because you're right, Ken. Absolutely right. One more example, because I want to make sure you understand I'm just making this stuff up. It's the truth. 2008, Ted Stevens. While the investigation was way before the election, this was a politically motivated case. Ted Stevens, Senator Republican, Alaska, was convicted of 7 counts of bribery and tax evasion on October 27, 2008. He then lost re-election. However, the charges were dropped when it was learned that the federal prosecutors committed gross misconduct during the Stevens trial, including hiding evidence that would have exonerated him. Mic drop. Yeah. Okay? So do you understand what I'm saying to you? There is no reason. There is no precedent. There is no understanding. There is no history of the Department of Justice holding back on prosecuting felons, criminals, and anybody else they think might need to be prevented from being elected or reelected. What it is they don't want to prosecute Hillary because they want her to be president, because she can finish the Barack Obama agenda and Donald Trump cannot. And we all know what that is. Ray, welcome to Stacy on the Right.
Well, it's going to get more interesting.
What's going to get more interesting?
Well, let me tell you, I was a federal prosecutor for 25 years. And I can tell you that whenever the FBI wanted to get a search warrant, they would come to the U.S. Attorney's Office. They would come to the assistant U.S. Attorney who was handling the case or the issue or whatever it is. And they'd come in and they'd go, here is my probable cause statement. Can we go see a federal magistrate judge and get a search warrant? So it was always done with an assistant U.S. attorney walking with the FBI agent to the office of a federal magistrate judge and walking in and going, here you go. So let's say the Attorney General of the United States says to the U.S. attorney in the district where this investigation is going on, you are ordered to not help the FBI with getting a search warrant for Anthony Weiner's computer for the information that you're looking for. Then what is the FBI going to do? I mean, legally, they could draft their own search warrant, I guess, and ring the doorbell of the judge and go, can we get a search warrant without the assistance of the U.S. Attorney's Office? That would be really interesting. So it's going to get even more interesting to see if the Attorney General of the United States will let the U.S. Attorney, and I think it's one of the districts in New York, continue with their investigation. Because as it stands right now, unless they get a search warrant for the information they're looking for in a computer, it's over. They can't look at that information without getting a new search warrant. And if people are confused about why they need to do that, it's real simple. You can always compare it to a file cabinet. So they get the first search warrant for the sexting information, and it's just like if you were going to go through a file cabinet. you're going to see files that have nothing to do with that just because you're looking for that information.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is, as soon as you see one piece of information that you think has nothing to do with it, you're supposed to, and I'm sure this is what they did, you shut it down.
Mm-hmm.
No different than when you're looking for other information and all of a sudden you come upon child pornography, you shut it down and you go get a brand new search warrant. And I'm sure that's what's happening here. And it'll be real interesting if the U.S. attorney is permitted to get this new search warrant in that district, or will Loretta Lynch say, you're not going to help them?
Okay. Thank you for the call. I really appreciate that. You've just totally vindicated me on Facebook as well. Thank you. Thanks, Ray. I wanted to say something. You know, it's hard for me not to interrupt because I'm just a straight up talker, but he was so good because he's speaking from experience as a former federal prosecutor, and he has all that experience and knowledge base. And I love it when people like that call into the show because I'm totally vindicated. I said earlier today on Facebook, and I posted a story to support my assertion. It's not like I came with it with myself. I'm not a lawyer. That it's exactly what he said. They were there and they were permitted to take the devices that would pertain to the sexting. So they did. When they found the tranche of 650,000 emails, they knew they needed a new search warrant. The reason I think, just my opinion, that Comey sent the letter to the Republicans is because he wanted to get it out there before anybody could tell him, forget about this.
Right.
And, wave their hand in front of him and go, you don't remember any of this. So he got it out there. The other thing I think is obviously, and I'll have to get to this when we get back from the break, there is all of this information out on UK Daily Mail, this huge article about James Comey and his wife and how much he's been suffering since he made that announcement in July that they weren't going to prosecute Hillary Clinton. So when we get back, I will share information from that with you and take a call or two. You guys get in the call queue. I'll take calls. 866-455-9797. You're not going to want to miss this. Stay right there. Stacy on the Right.
This is the Stacy on the Right Show.
Dependable weather
Clouds take control today. Chance of a couple of spotty
with Fox 2 meteorologist